Made possible through support from ARC Thrift Stores, Colorado Developmental Disabilities Council, Developmental Pathways, the Limbaugh Law Firm, and the ARC of Aurora. A Think Change training.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us again today for another episode within our multi-part podcast and vodcast series here offered through Think Change, all about disability, assets, finances, and really what you need to know. Along this journey, we've been meeting with some really great external guests, and I'm here today with another really wonderful external guest that I cannot wait for him to introduce himself to you all and let you all know a little bit about himself and the important work that he does within our community. As another reminder, per always, we are not here to give you any individualized medical or legal advice, but if you do need some type of individualized advice, please consult with your own medical or legal advisors so that you get that specific to yourself. So my special guest today, I'm so excited that you're here. If you could just introduce yourself to all of our viewers and our listeners, a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, that would be great.
Great. My name is Mike Keglovitz, and I manage the Colorado ABLE accounts for the state of Colorado. I have two kids, Violet and Cooper, who are 11 and 9, and my daughter's actually starting middle school tomorrow, so she's a little nervous. And I have a wonderful wife who's an assistant principal in Denver Public Schools. And my role is really to manage ABLE accounts, making sure that it's a good product that we're presenting to the community, not only in Colorado, but also nationwide. And so that's what my role is.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Also, thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself and your personal life. I'm sure that while your daughter is nervous, I'm sure you are also nervous for her as well for school.
Very, very excited for her. She's going to do great.
She will do great. So today is all about talking about ABLE accounts and really what those are. And so could you share with everyone really what is an ABLE account?
Yeah, so the real importance of ABLE accounts is that it helps to protect and build assets for individuals. So if you are on SSI or if you are on Medicaid or those federal benefits, you can't have more than $2,000 in total assets. And if you have more than $2,000, you lose those federal benefits, and a lot of times that's a real struggle for folks. So in 2014, federally, they passed the ABLE Act, and basically anything in an ABLE account is exempt from that calculation. So the money in there, they can see it, Social Security can see it, Medicaid can see it, but it's not going to influence or affect their standing. So they can go beyond that $2,000 asset limit, and they can save for something that's meaningful and something that that they can use it for down the road. They don't have to be in that spend down where they're trying to get below that $2,000 asset mark at the end of the month so that they can stay eligible for those benefits.
That's great. And I think what's really neat about ABLE accounts is it really helps people be able to save without having it impact those important programs that you had mentioned. So why would someone why would they want an ABLE account as opposed to maybe a trust, or why would maybe a trust be a better fit for them than an ABLE account?
Yeah, I don't think ABLE accounts are replacing trust. I think there's a need for both. But one of the big differences between a trust and an ABLE account, in an ABLE account, it's really, really easy to use. There's not a trustee, so you don't have to go back and ask, or maybe there's a transactional fee to be able to get to those assets. And the other thing, out of a trust, you can't pay for housing, you can't pay for food or basic living expenses, but out of an ABLE account, you can. And so it just makes it a lot more usable for that individual. At least Colorado ABLE account comes with a debit card where you can use it at a point of sale. Just makes it really easy and really functional for a family to use. That being said, an ABLE account, you can't put more than $16,000 in a year unless they have some earned income, then you can do an additional amount. But out of a trust, where there's always a place for a trust is, a lot of times a family member might leave some assets for their disabled child. And so an ABLE account, you can't take more than $16,000 a year. In a trust, it could be $100,000, it could be $500,000. And so it makes it a lot easier in terms of transferring assets to somebody all at once.
I think that's super helpful advice. Also, not necessarily saying like one is better than the other. I think it really just depends on the person's unique circumstances, and maybe, an ABLE account is better for them, or maybe a trust, or maybe both. So they certainly sound like they can almost work hand in hand with each other to make sure that someone with a disability is really having the opportunity to manage their money safely and also have a place for it.
Totally, and a lot of families are using it with a trust. They're transferring money to help supplement housing if they live here in Colorado. If you live on the Front Range or you live in an urban area nationwide, housing is very expensive, and so they're using it to help supplement, the housing needs or food needs. So you can use them in conjunction with one another.
That's interesting. That's great advice. Something recently that's very exciting that has come up is some legislation. Could you talk a little bit about the new legislation and how that kind of impacts ABLE?
Yeah, so we here in Colorado, we just passed House Bill 1320, and it did three things. The first, we used to have Medicaid recovery. So, while somebody was living, they could use the ABLE account, and then when they died, Medicaid could come back and take some of it, or they could take all of it, depending on what they've paid out from when that ABLE account was established. So there will be no recovery anymore, or Medicaid clawback. And so that was one of the things that was kind of holding families back of really putting a lot of money into an ABLE account, is because they thought, oh, geez, if something happened to my relative or my son or daughter, that money could go back to the state. And so that's the first provision that it stopped. That it won't go back to the state. It will go to what the estate plan of that individual is. The second is before, ABLE accounts are very similar to college savings accounts. In fact, in the tax code, a college savings account is a 529, and the ABLE is a 529A. And so in the 529 world in Colorado, you had a state deduction on the contributions. So if you put money in, you could deduct it on your state taxes. But on the ABLE side, we didn't have that. And so we made those two things congruent. So now also on the ABLE side, on contributions, there's also a state deduction on taxes as well. So just made it a little more equitable for folks. And then finally, and this, I've gotten this call many times, it typically like a sibling that lives in Pennsylvania. They have an adult brother that lives here in Colorado that has an ABLE account, and the parents that were helping to manage that and were caretakers or guardians have passed away. And so it made it very difficult without having either guardianship or power of attorney in place for this relative to help take care of that. And so typically when that happens, the ABLE account is frozen and they don't have access to those assets.
Oh, wow.
And so they had to get a notary on their end and a notary on the disabled adults end to be able to have somebody help manage that account if that was the case. So now somebody can just attest online and say, hey, I am who I am. And there's kind of a hierarchy of people that can manage it, and they don't need to get a signature authority. So it's going to make it a lot easier for people to open accounts and to help manage an account where they're already jumping through a lot of hoops with the federal government, with Medicaid and with SSI, or if it's SSDI, there's a lot of hoops, and this is one less hoop that they have to jump through.
Absolutely. And I mean, as you were talking, just thinking about in the event that you have to go through that unexpected life transition where a certain family member is no longer around, and to have to go through all of these hoops to be able to get what you need to access it is such a traumatic experience to begin with. But then, you're not even in the right headspace to have to deal with all that. So this certainly helps. Definitely. With not having to go through that again, which is great.
Definitely. Yeah, we are very happy to be able to bring these three changes to families and folks here in Colorado.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that information. So if someone were to want to open an ABLE account, maybe whether they're here in Colorado or maybe they're outside, how could they start? Where would they start? What does that process maybe look like?
Yeah, so we do not have a brick and mortar place where you go and open up an Able account. So the only place they can do it is going to the website to www.coloradoable.org. And they can either do if they're comfortable with using the internet, there's a login button or an enroll button, and they can enroll, and it takes maybe 10 or 15 minutes to be able to provide that information, and they can open it. Or they can also download forms, or they can contact us and we can send hard copy forms out. That being said, going back to the virtual, it is going to be you're not walking into a place to do your banking, even though you'll have a bank account and you'll have a debit card. But if you need help, you can either log in online to be able to help manage that account, or you can call customer service for that help as well.
That's great. I think, and that's kind of the new wave of the world that we're in. Like, I personally bank with someone where there's not an actual place that I can go to, which I think is such a different way of thinking, but that is kind of the wave of the world now. You might be banking with someone or have an Able account, and you may not have like a specific place that you can go to, but knowing that there are certainly many of alternatives of customer service, you can call someone for help. There's probably help desk online, things like that, where people can get the help that they need.
Definitely. And, for depending on what the disability in terms of somebody qualifying for an Able account, if people that are visually impaired, sometimes it's easier to be able to be in front of a screen and have a screen reader and go that route.
Absolutely. Great advice. Those are all the questions that I had for you. As we're wrapping up this conversation, is there anything that's just kind of like on the back of your mind that you feel like would be really important to share with people as we're talking about this whole multi-part series of finances, assets, and disability, and what people need to know? Is there anything specific to Able accounts you'd like to close up with?
Yeah, I think it seems really intimidating. Opening up an account online. But once it's in place, it's really easy and really functional. We really prided ourselves in trying to make it as easy as possible. You can almost use it for any type of expense as long as it's benefiting the individual that's disabled. So if they wanted to go on vacation, they can do that. If they needed somebody to go with them to help and assist, they can pay for that. If they want to go out to eat, they can pay for themselves. They're just not paying for everybody that's going with them out to eat. Really flexible transportation, education, all of those things, food. It's really a really easy to use tool for families and for individuals that qualify.
Is there, while you were talking, I know we're wrapping up here, is there anything specific outside of like the housing that you had mentioned that they absolutely cannot use Able on?
I would say if it's illegal, probably they wouldn't be able to do that.
Noted. Don't make a bad decision.
Yeah. But other than that, it's really, there's a health and wellness column. Somebody asked me, could I go to could I buy a gun with it? And some people go to shooting ranges, and that makes them feel really happy and good. Some people go bowling, and they can use it for recreation. So I would say, again, if they're benefiting individually from it specifically, it's probably going to be a qualified disability expense. And the IRS has made very broad categories, and there's a lot of things that can fit within that category. You go back, I mentioned transportation. That could be taking the bus, that could be buying a car, that could be modifying a car, that could be Uber or Lyft. It can be very creative for how people are utilizing that.
I think it's great to have that creativity and that flexibility option, because I think so often, if you do receive some type of supplemental services, you can feel really, limited. And it can feel really daunting at times when you don't really feel like you have access to everything that you need. But knowing that you can have this built-in flexibility if you have an Able account is really great news, I think, for people with disabilities and their families.
Yeah, just to add, it's really exciting to be able to bring this, helping people create financial security that have never been able to create financial security before. They lived in a state of constant of being impoverished, and now they can actually build for something. They can make financial goals. They can save money towards those goals rather than being in this spend down. So it's really exciting to be able to bring that to the community, not only Colorado, but to the nation of people that are opening up these accounts.
Absolutely. I mean, financial stability is huge, not just for people with disabilities, but for everyone. So to know that that is an option, I think is just a really great way to close it up. Financial stability, it's for everyone. It's not just for people that maybe it's easy for them to come by. Now it seems like it is easy for everyone to have access to an ABLE account. So Mike, I super appreciate your valuable time in sharing this important information with our viewers and listeners. To everyone tuning in, whether you're listening to a podcast or watching us via a video vodcast, thanks for trusting us through this process and just getting the information that you need out there so you can build yourself more of a foundational knowledge. So thanks again, and we will see you again soon. Take care.